We are now joined by my good friend, Nadine Dorries, who is joining us down the line after an opinion poll shows that Rishi Sunak has lost 1 in 5 of those Conservative Party voters, or as I like to call them, Boris Johnson voters. Nadine, this is a really worrying poll for people like me who are still serving Conservative members of Parliament. Do you think this will be reflected at a general election?
Well, it's always difficult to say when you're so far out from a general election what will happen. You know as well as I do, none of us make predictions today in politics. But what I do know is that it isn't the only poll which is going to be showing this over the next few days and weeks. And what is disturbing about the polling which is being undertaken at the moment is that what the intentions are of those who are Conservative Party members as well as Conservative Party voters. And I think what we're going to see is that those people who are the most loyal people to us and those who vote for us are undecided. No, undecided isn't the right word, actually, have decided that they aren't going to vote Conservative. They're going to vote for other parties or not vote at all. And I think as we get closer towards the election and when it's going to happen, and the more substantial that polling becomes, i.e. poll after poll begins to show us the same results, then I'm afraid, Jake, the more worrying it gets for MPs like you, who have, and in your case, you fought a seat which is in the northwest of England, which is a tough seat. And, you've been a good MP, you've worked that seat hard, you've given your all to it. And unfortunately, because a group of 60 MPs decided to get rid of Boris Johnson, who is our winner, the only person Labour are actually afraid of leading the Conservative Party, because a small group of MPs chose to do that and remove him, you are going to pay the price for all the years of hard work that you have invested into your seat.
Well, Nadine, we shall wait and see. You're right that the best thing is that none of us make predictions. I am fighting on the doorsteps, as Winston Churchill almost said, but didn't say at all. Do you think it's likely that Keir Starmer is going to win this election with a majority? We've been talking on the show this afternoon, and there seems to be a bit of fear still in the Labour Party that he might be forming some form of coalition either with the support of the SNP or the Liberal Democrats. How likely do you think that is, looking at the polling numbers?
Well, of course, going up to an election, he's going to do that. He's going to keep all doors open and all avenues of communication open with anyone that he needs to form an alliance with, should he so need to do so. If he doesn't get the majority that he needs, he'd be an idiot if he didn't.
And we saw that from Tony Blair in 97, didn't we?
Sorry?
We saw that from Tony Blair in 97, didn't we? That's how he behaved.
Of course, he did exactly the same thing. I'll tell you what else we saw from Tony Blair in 97. He had his would-be cabinet-to-be 18 months before on weekends away, where they had various, Cranfield College, Cranfield University in my own constituency, they went there for a weekend where they were absolutely drilled on how to govern, how to manage the civil service, how the civil service works, how departments run. And, Keir Starmer will be embarking on very much that process himself now. But, of course, he's going to be talking to SNP, he's going to be talking to Liberal Democrats, he's going to be talking to, probably not the DUP, that would be a stretch, but he will be talking to other political partners. He won't be talking to Conservatives because it's us he wants to keep out. Yeah. Now, when the time comes, if he has the majority that he needs, of course, those people will feel like they've been, used and dumped. But, if he's a clever guy, he'll be keeping those avenues open.
So the 2019 election I've always called the BBC election. That was Boris, Brexit and Corbyn defined that election. I think this coming as the ABC election, anyone but Conservatives will be motivating lots of people. Look, Nadine, you've written a fantastic book that I am listening to, actually, funnily enough, on audio. My greatest tragedy of that audible recording is that it isn't narrated by you. It's fantastic, but I'd much prefer to hear you in my ear than anyone else. The book is called The Plot, and I just wonder if, as you look at the Conservative Party, which has been tearing itself apart again this week with briefings against Rishi Sunak, do you think the plot of your book is being played out all over again in the Conservative Party?
Oh, I don't think it. I know it. So the book makes a number of many predictions. I mean, it's 300 pages, and I think there's a bit of a bomb on most pages. But there are also many predictions. I mean, it was almost a year ago when I wrote the transcript of that book, where someone was saying to me, what will happen very soon is that Ben Wallace will start being briefed against, he's a good friend of yours in a seat near to you. He'll start being briefed against, but Ben is no fool, and Ben will know what's happening when it starts to happen, and he will probably stand down. And that's just one of the predictions, and that exactly came to play. I was told Dominic Raab there will be complaints and an investigation against Dominic Raab. They will brief against him, and he will do the same thing. Bang on cue, it happened. So there are many predictions. It also predicts that the plotters, those people who've been at the heart of the Conservative Party for over 20 years, those people will remove Rishi Sunak and put Kemi Badenoch in place, because Kemi was always the project. She's also one of the main plotters is a guy called Dougie Smith, who no one would speak his name and everyone was afraid of. And even newspapers wouldn't print photographs of him or write about him. And the one thing the plot has done is it's exposed him. It's blown these group of people up who are Michael Gove, Dougie Smith, Dominic Cummings, these people who operate at the heart of the party, and people are now talking about them and looking at them and looking what they've done and what they're doing still now. And for me, that's one of the most important things, the plot. You know, no one's seen a photograph of Dougie Smith. There was just one photograph when he was a teenager. And the photograph that you see now in the newspapers and on TV about Dougie Smith, and I don't know if you've got it in the gallery there, but the one photograph about him that you see now of him, until the plot came out, I discovered that in all newspaper libraries, they had that photograph, but it had on it, "This is Dougie Smith, do not use."
Wow.
This is not Dougie Smith, do not use. It was Dougie Smith.
But
And
Nadine,
this guy's reach is huge.
Nadine,
So
look,
exposing him is one of the most important things for me.
Nadine, it's a great book, and I must say I'm not reading it, I'm listening to it on Audible. I'm really, really enjoying it. And what I can say is the stuff that I know is true in it is 100% accurate. So I can only imagine all the other stuff that I didn't know about is also 100% accurate. But you have, I think this week, said that the party needs to get behind Rishi Sunak. Does he still have your support?
No, so Rishi Sunak never had my support because I knew what they were doing, as did you, Jake. And I knew what was happening. I now know, having taken a year investigation where for 365 days I've been investigating this, I now know in more detail what happened, including the stuff I couldn't get through lawyers. And Rishi Sunak was very much involved, you know, all along for 7 years. He's been planning to get into number 10. They used Boris from the day Boris won the general election, as Dominic Cummings says, it's time to get him out on day one, because they wanted to get Rishi in. And so Rishi doesn't have my respect, and he certainly doesn't have my support. But what I would say is this: to have a fifth leadership election in 5 years would be utterly insane. We are facing wipeout virtually as it is. I don't think the Conservative Party would cease to exist if we went through that toxic, tortuous process of having another leadership election. Remember how bad it was when we got Rishi Sunak and Liz Truss, and how they were always going to get Liz Truss out, even though she was only there, you know, she won the lead, he came second. It's toxic. And I just think it would destroy us completely, I'm afraid. And I think some of the party grandees, Jake, not the plotters to the full degree, but certainly those who are, you know, on the periphery, there are some of the Tory grandees. It is absolutely factual that David Cameron did not suddenly be made Foreign Secretary for no reason. There was a reason why that happened. Sorry, my phone is...
Well, don't worry, Nadine. Look, we're gonna
why he was made Foreign Secretary. And I think so those who are trying to get Rishi out and get Kemi in, there are those grandees in the party who are trying to prevent a leadership election and will want what happened in 2005, where Michael Howard was popped in as a caretaker leader and no election. They'll try and pop David Cameron to prevent it happening. So there's lots going on. There are lots of camps at work.
The plot thickens. In other news, a very good friend of mine, a very good friend of yours, we've managed to work out that Boris Johnson's one of our viewers on Friday, so should we give him a wave? Are you going to give him a wave?
I'll ask him.
Thank you for
Hi,
joining
Boris.
us, Nadine Dorries there, former Culture Secretary and well-known author as well.